What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Corruption back again. Today I wanted to talk about a subject that's been interesting me for some time now, ever since I heard the clamoring about the subject from this year's Global Gaming Expo, or G2E for short. Some of you may be wondering what the title of the video may actually mean, especially if you're unfamiliar with G2E. We gamers have referred to our pastime as gaming since essentially the dawn of Quarter Goblin arcades, and possibly even prior. But another industry also refers to its play as gaming, and that's casino wager-based gambling. Recently, the proposal of moving casino gaming further away from luck-based gambling and more towards a skill-based payout has been brought up again. This isn't really a new subject, but it is a subject that's been pursued a little more closely here recently. The casino gaming industry has been looking at and studying the video game industry and monitoring the success of AAA titles such as Halo and Call of Duty, the franchises, and various other little successful franchises that thrive in our industry. And I'll also hopefully be linking an article from Indian Gaming in the description below. Give you all a look over if you're interested, and it kind of explains what I'm going over. And the common conception among the casino industry is that the older generation of casino-going patrons are slowly thinning out, and that the younger generation of the 20 to 30-somethings are shying away from games of chance, possibly due to the machine's holds, low payouts for high wagers, or simply even due to just not finding enjoyment in chance-based gaming. Various other reasons could be cited, but one thing the 20 to 30-somethings enjoy are interactive video games. And skill-based gaming is fairly similar. With esports on the rise and money being made by developers, publishers, promoters, and even the players themselves now, it's not really a surprise the casino industry is looking to cash in on it. Now, as for today, I've already rattled on for a little bit on some of the minimal things. I wanted to do some theorizing as to how I imagine things would or could work out for the hybrid gaming cabinet. Hybrid being that the game runs on both a game of chance and the skill-based payouts, but how some machines have already implemented the semi-hybrid variation of this, such as newer gaming cabinets such as Little Green Men and Big Buck Hunter. Little Green Men, they kind of had like an arcade joystick and some buttons that you just kind of pointed your cursor around on the screen and trying to shoot the aliens. And Big Buck Hunter, it works the same way as you would in the arcade Big Buck Hunter. You got your little light gun and you shoot the different things for the bonus, usually like beer mugs or something. And even some of the deer would be part of the game. But essentially, you play the slot machine as normal. You're feeding the machine money while you press the spin button, and you hope for the symbols to fall in the right location. You spin, and you spin until hopefully however many or whatever the symbols you may need in whatever position or the stars align, they fall into place and you trigger the bonus. Now, the bonus game would then land you into a skill-based bonus game that would play much like an average video game. Now, at G2E 2015, a machine was shown to have the theme of the arcade classic Space Invaders. Now, the video I've seen of the game showed a decent amount of information to go from. The machine played like a normal. Along the way, you would collect shots and build up a meter that would be useful for when the bonus round did hit. You were then given the choice to either have a traditional game of chance, which would usually involve free spins, or you could play the skill-based game. Now, the skill-based game was classic Space Invaders, but for each invader you would destroy, you'd earn a certain amount of credits. Now, these credits would then get awarded. You'd keep them until the end of the bonus, and then it would all be awarded to your overall progression at the end of the bonus. Now, it did appear that some of the mechanics of Space Invaders had been kind of altered. In terms of maneuverability, it seemed like your spaceship would go a lot slower than what you would normally do in the classic game. Now, this provided a bit of a challenge because you wouldn't be able to effectively evade enemy shots as well as you would normally be able to. And then, as I mentioned before, you would collect ammo in the main game prior to hitting the bonus. So now you would actually have a set amount of shots that you could take. So let's say you had 20 invaders on the screen, but maybe you've only collected 18 shots throughout the core, quote unquote, game. You're not going to get every invader. I mean, it's just not possible, and chances are you're going to miss a few times anyways. But for whatever you do hit, you will get money for. But being able to clear the stage and possibly progressing on to the next one is not going to be a possibility because you don't have the right amount of shots to progress. Now, this probably doesn't sound terribly exciting to the video gaming crowd so far. Yeah, there's going to be these limitations on there. Some of the bonuses will, just seem a bit unfair. But why? Well, simply the machine's out to make money. That's what they're meant to do. They got to collect. They got holds. They got their percentages that they got to do. But it's not completely terrible, as you're still making the money that you're getting from the skill-based aspect of the game. So it really does depend on how well you do is how well you'll be paid. And to many of the younger people today, this would seem like a horrendous idea. Like, this just has no possibility of working, not Ice Cube's chance in hell. But to many of the 30-something video gamers out there in the world, they've already lived this era. Juxtapose this new concept to arcade cabinets of the 80s, and you'll kind of see in the early arcade scene, it was more of a challenging aspect. They designed these games to be very challenging and, to an extent, almost unfair. Especially as you would progress further. And your first levels would be kind of your entry level of, yeah, I can do this. This isn't too hard. And then you get to like maybe level 5, and then things start just kind of snowballing. And let's just remember that Pac-Man had, 200 and some odd levels, and the last few levels just went black on you. Yeah, these were ideas meant to basically just get your quarters from you. Everything that an arcade cabinet did back then was meant for you to just pop more quarters and more quarters into it. Not very unsimilar, is that a word, to slot machines. And many people know how playing a video game for the first time is. Something like Souls, for example, is a great example for today. Everybody remembers their first one, their first time, and a lot of people will still tell you that it's the hardest game known to mankind, yada, yada, yada. Many got used to it, others didn't. But for the ones that did, they learned their mechanics and they discovered every piece of the game. And when arcade players did this, they dominated the leaderboards. They had top bragging rights. They were unstoppable. And if you were to do this in a skill-based slot machine, you'd probably make a decent profit off of it, plus your bragging rights. And in an attempt not to make this into like some hour-long video or even half-hour long, I'm just kind of jumping around from idea to idea at the point. I'm going to highlight key points. I got a bit of theory crafting going on here. And for the subject, I believe the best types of game for this new system will be either fighting game themes or racing themes. And the reason why is, the player base of those games are probably your most hardcore. You'll be able to attract a steady following, and they would probably be the most satisfying experience for skill-based gaming. The end user will probably be more likely to frequent the machines again and again, and they probably won't feel too bad about their overall experience. They might even have a fairly positive experience with them. Sure, it's going to be kind of a hassle getting from the luck-based aspect to get into the skill-based aspect, but again, that goes back to these machines are out to make money, so they're going to have a hold where you won't be able to constantly just access in if the machine is constantly losing money. It's just going to keep you out of the bonus until it kind of reaches a certain point and it's built a little bit of money up, and then, okay, going back into bonuses, you get what you need. It's like it's just another mechanic within the machines that's going to help them profit, but also still be within a regulations. And racing games, I could see those being, fairly good too, because you're going to get into possibly a game where you race either one car or you might race against maybe a group of like 6 or something, but your player base for these are going to be pretty decent when you get into it. And it looks all good for everybody involved. But this is also going to be good for the manufacturers themselves, because let's face it, it's going to be easier for them to, quote unquote, cheat. As gamers, we're aware in like some of these genres how the difficulty curve can just easily go off the scale. You can go from like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. You can be going through the ladders. You can be progressing pretty nicely. And then you either hit like one enemy that's just got some ridiculous moves, or you even get to the end boss and he just throws out some BS maneuvers that, you either are going to be eating a lot of these attacks, or you're going to have to use a gimmick to overcome them. Let's think about Mortal Kombat pretty heavily on that one, because Shao Kahn, pain in my ass. Or in racing games, it just seems like you're not as able to go quite as fast as the opponent. They're always just a little bit out of reach, and until a few times of retrying later on, you kind of notice that it's like, it appears the AI just kind of slowing up just a bit, just at the right time for you to overtake them. And it's that kind of programming that I think that they could make use of pretty nicely in a slot machine. Not to say that that's going to be the greatest experience for the player, but it is an option for them to do in order to profit on the machine without blatantly being shitty about it. This is the only way I can say that. But I wouldn't expect that to be like, getting into the bonus game and just being completely mopped up with. I'd expect something like in Street Fighter, as you're fighting, let's say you had like maybe a 3-round ladder. So you got your first fight and you deal damage to the opponent, and the opponent deals damage to you. That's how the fighting game works, right? Well, you've got your timer and everything like you would normally have. If you can get your opponent's health to 0, you win the round, and you'd win a set amount of first round money. I would also expect that depending on how much life energy that you have, you get a little bit more bonus money for, completing the round with so much money. Much like how you get bonus points in the high score. But now it's actually translated into credits that will be paid out to you. So the amount of time, the amount of health that you have remaining, and the fact that you got a KO, maybe even some of your special moves or something could pay you out a little bit more. Every little bit of thing that you can do to try and get more money out of this. So round 2 starts, and I'd expect it to kind of go kind of like a Survivor type game ladder, where your health from the previous round transfers over, so you're not in tip-top shape, and this one's a bit harder. You fight him, and the same aspect, however much life you may have left can give you a little bit more extra money. The time left, just the KO, again, the special moves, whatever you've used may be more money. And then I'd expect the last round to just be like an overall decimating kind of character, your Gil or your Bison, something. But it's still going to be fair enough for you to be able to try and fight back. Now, the only other second thing I can think of in theory for this would be a system such as Mortal Kombat's Invasion. Now, the Invasion would work, you get into a fight and your opponent has like super armor. It takes like 8 hits to break through the armor to where you can even do damage. And you really don't do much damage. I mean, there's really no chance of you KOing this person. The most you're trying to do is inflict as much damage as you can in a short amount of time. Usually you get, I think, 30 seconds on the invasion timer. If even that, I think it might be like 15 or 20. So you'd get credits probably for as many hits as you can actually deal to them. Maybe even get more money for tearing down the shield. Again, special moves being connected and all that if you manage to survive the timer. I could see these being ways that the fighting game genre could make a very good skill-based gaming slot machine. And as far as racing, you can do most of your checkpoint type races or whatever you may need The less damage you take on your vehicle, you get some more money for. Maybe you might get a set prize amount for coming in first, second, or third, so you could actually win your progressive amounts that build towards the prize if you can come into like first place. Now that I would expect those to be like the big like 10 races that are harder than hell, but I could see where these things can go, and these are all the theories that I have on the subject so far. And this has only been like just a few months. G2E happened in like September. I've been kind of chewing on this, trying to think of how this would work. And like I said, skill-based gaming in gaming is not a new concept, but it's something that's just being really looked upon even more. They're starting to approve it. And you've seen somewhat skill-based gaming being implemented. It's being considered by some the same as towards the FanDuels, fantasy football, those kind of gambling, sports gambling wagers. They are starting to look at those as skill-based, not quite as much as you would anticipate as what we're talking about in video games, but they do consider that a skill-based gaming to a certain point, and that's what they're trying to argue so far, I think, in New York and all those other states that are trying to ban those sports betting sites. And at a certain point, you start getting into that very nitpicking, what classifies as skill. We go back to the whole argument between esports not being a sport considered by ESPN, who champions World Series of Poker. So, I mean, it's kind of a tricky thing right now where people are still trying to nail down the whole skill-based gaming thing. But what's been interesting for me has been the use of video gaming style in slot machines. And like I said, I can see where it's going with that, but only time will tell how well that will transition. Now, I got a little bit of final bit of fat for you to chew on with this video before I kind of wrap it up, because I'm not going to go on too long with this, because I don't even know how well this video is going to go over with people, as I doubt too many of the people that watch me are really into casino gaming. But this is a theory I've had since I've heard about this information on skill-based gaming in September. Because we've got many companies that are going to be testing the water in the gaming industry, which I'm referring to the casino gaming. Because we've got vendors such as IGT, Bally, Ainsworth, Aristocrat, Aruze, Williams, but also a little underground company. Probably never heard of them. But I think they're called Konami. Many others will also attempt or have attempted their hand at creating a skill-based gaming experience. But why would a company that has many interests, such as the casino gaming, real estate, software, and video gaming, why would they practically drop an entire branch of their business, which was actually doing fairly successful, and refocus towards other aspects? Because if you're going to drop your entire video gaming branch, essentially, telling me you're going to refocus on mobile gaming, maybe, but you still got your casino gaming going, and we have a very potentially profitable market coming open with skill-based gaming in the casino gaming? Well, I guess maybe they just don't like you practicing.